بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. So we stopped last week with the meaning of the Shahadah, معنى لا إله إلا الله, the meaning of لا إله إلا الله, which was a negation and a confirmation or affirmation, a two-part of the canon of the Shahadah. And then the next piece, or the next part of the book, move back a little bit, so I'll show you. That's cool. Yeah, exactly. And the next part of the book, we're going to discuss shurut la ilaha illallah, the conditions for la ilaha illallah. And a condition, a shart, is something that comes before the mashrut. Yani if the condition is not there, then the second thing can't happen. So in this case, as he's going to explain, the same way we have shurut al-salah, conditions for the salah, we have shurut al-hajj, conditions for hajj, right? In the books of the fuqaha, it's the same idea. The conditions for something to be accepted. But first, as a reminder to myself and the brothers, that this book, even though it's a basic book, it's a basic book, but the ulama, the scholars of Islam, learn Islam on according to a specific type of way. There's a specific path that they take to learn. And that path is that they start with the smaller books, the smaller issues, before they delve into the greater issues. The issues that are clear, basic, you deal with first, and then they build on top of that. And this is how they learn, and this is how they teach. They don't start with the most detailed issue, or the most detailed book, or the longest book you can find on the shelf. That's not how the ulama learn, and that's not how they teach. The beginner is not supposed to learn like that. So there's a famous statement from, before we start, one of the imams of the past, and his name is Ibn Shihab al-Zuhri, Imam al-Zuhri, rahimahullah, Ibn Shihab al-Zuhri. He's a famous imam of hadith, from the old imams of the sunnah. And he has a famous statement. He says, من رام علم جملة ذهب عنه جملة وإنما يطلب العلم على مر الأيام والليالي. That whoever wants to learn everything all in one sitting, all at once, he says, ذهب عنه جملة, that all of his knowledge is going to leave him just like that, the way he learned it, all at once. We're not in a race. It's a lot of patience and learning. You take an issue today, one tomorrow, one the next day, one the next day. 365 days in a year, 365 issues. If you did 2 issues a day, or you learned something, 2 things new every day, then double that. And like that. So he said, whoever tries to learn everything in one sitting, he'll lose everything in one sitting. Then he said, إِنَّمَا يُطْلَبُ الْعِلْمَ عَلَى مَرِّ أَيَّامِ وَاللَّيَالِ. But knowledge, we're supposed to learn, knowledge is learned over days and nights, time. As they say, shay'an fa shay'an. Piece by piece, shwaya shwaya. A little today, a little tomorrow. Another statement that is relevant is that even though this book is basic, we shouldn't be afraid or embarrassed if we don't know something. And there's a nice statement from Sheikh Salih Ali Sheikh, Hafidhullah, who is the minister in Saudi of Islamic Affairs. And a lecture he gave, in his introduction to the lecture. He said, ليس الجهل عيبا لكن الإصرار على الجهل هو العيب. He said to be ignorant, not ignorant like we like to say ignorant sometimes, bad manners. Ignorant meaning not to know something. Not to know something, not knowing something is there's no shame in not knowing. It's okay not to know. There's no shame if a person doesn't know something. Right? He said, لكن الإصرار على الجهل هو العيب. But what is shameful is that a person continues not knowing. They continue not to know, meaning they don't try to learn anything. This is the aib. This is the shameful thing, or something that's embarrassing to a person. Not that we don't know, because none of us are born knowing. But he said what's aib is that the person continues on not knowing. They don't try to learn anything, and they have the ability to learn. And then he said after that, and this will be the end of this, and he was advising those in the class listening. He said, وَأَنْتُمْ قَادِرُونَ بِلَا شَكْ عَلَى التَّعَلُّمِ. He said, you all, without a doubt, talking to the people, he said, you all, without a doubt, have the ability to learn. So you all have the ability to learn. قَادِرُونَ عَلَى الفَّهْمِ. And you have the ability to understand. It's not like we don't have the ability, or a person doesn't have the intellectual power to understand or learn. Most of us, alhamdulillah, do. قَادِرُونَ عَلَى الفِّقْهِ. You understand, you're able, you have the ability to learn fiqh and understand what's permissible in the religion, what's not permissible. He said, you have the ability to do this. He said, لَكِنَ الْعَيْبِ يَأْتِي مِنْ إِضَاعَةِ الْوَقْتِ فِي غَيْرِ مَا يَنْفَعُ. He said, but the mushkila, the aib, the shameful thing, is that a person wastes their time in things that don't benefit them. This is the problem. Not that we don't have the brain capacity to learn something, but that we don't apply ourselves when we have the ability to apply ourselves. We don't apply ourselves to learn. So he said, you have the ability to do that, but the mushkila, the aib, the shameful thing, and it's not praiseworthy, the shameful thing is that we waste time doing things that don't give us any benefit. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is just a reminder for myself as we continue in this Durus al-Muhimma with what could be said Islam 101. These are basic things, as he said in the introduction, that all the Muslims are supposed to know. So he says, قال رحمه الله وأما الشروط لا إله إلا الله فهي. So this is Shaykh bin Baz rahimahullah, as he is the one who wrote the book. Important lessons for every Muslim. Durus al-Muhimma is written by Shaykh bin Baz and Shaykh Razak al-Abad, who teaches in the Prophet's Masjid, is the explainer of this one. So he says, a question might come, as there are 8 conditions. Some of the ulama combine them into 7. He said, a question might come, من أين أتيتم بهذه الشروط? Where did you get these shurut from? Ahl Sunnah. If we don't say anything or we don't do anything except out of the book and the Sunnah, we have to live for everything we do. صح? طيب, shurut la ilaha illallah. Does anybody know the hadith with the conditions? As some of the ulama say there's 7 conditions. Some of the scholars say 8 conditions. Does anybody, or has anybody ever heard the hadith that says the conditions of La ilaha illallah are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Anyone ever heard that hadith? Anyone ever heard a hadith that said the shurut, the conditions for La ilaha illallah are this: 1, 2, 3 from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Tayyib. He said, if a person says this, or shurut al-salat, where did y'all get these conditions from? Y'all put conditions on everything. Where you get these from? يقال من المصدر الذي استخلصت منه شروط الصلاة وشروط الحج وغير ذلك من العبادات. The conditions for La ilaha illallah have been taken from the same place where we get the conditions of salah. In the same place we get the conditions for hajj. As this is known, there are conditions for salah. Ulama is not a secret, conditions for salah. But where do they come? Where's the dalil in the Quran and the Sunnah to say that these are conditions? طيب. He says, as we already know, the salah is not accepted except that the conditions are fulfilled first. And what's the condition for the salah? Wudu. طيب. Wudu is a condition for the salah. Right? We know, everybody knows you can't pray without wudu. It's a sharat. It's a condition for the salah.
Intention.
Intention
too.
Ish?
Niyyah.
A niyyah. Ibadah. That you have an intention. We know that these things are conditions for the salah, that the salah is not accepted if the conditions aren't fulfilled. Same thing for hajj and the other things with regards to worship. طيب. He says the same way as La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah, if a person says La ilaha illallah, لا تقبل من قائلها إلا بشروطها. La ilaha illallah, a person says the statement La ilaha illallah, is not accepted from a person except that if they fulfill the conditions when they said it. But the question is, where do these conditions come from? Do they just make them up as they go along? Abadan. Hadith. طيب. If there's a hadith that says La ilaha illallah, if there's a hadith that says La ilaha illallah, we need to know it. What's the hadith that says La ilaha illallah, the conditions for La ilaha illallah are such and such? There is no hadith that says the conditions of La ilaha illallah are 7. La yujad. طيب. So where do they get this from? It's something called al-istiqra'. Al-istiqra' wat-tatabbu'. Al-istiqra'. And al-istiqra' is that the ulama, the scholars of Islam, do extensive research. Extensive research. Not like a Google search real quick. They do extensive research, gathering the hadith, the ayat pertaining to the specific issue that's being spoken about. They gather the hadith, all the hadith being spoken about in the issue. They gather them together and then they make a ruling based on, once everything has been gathered. Not grab one hadith and then say, khalas, this is the hukm on it, this is the ruling on it. They have to gather everything, and it's extensive. It's not like something easy. You have to know where to look, what books to look in. If it's mentioned, if it's a narration, is the hadith authentic? Is it weak? Can you use it? It's a lot that goes into it. This is where these conditions come from. It says, وَهِيَ الشُّرُوط عُلِمَتْ بِالْإِسْتِقْرَاءِ وَالتَّتَبُّعِ لِكَلَامِ اللَّهِ وَكَلَامِ رَسُولِهِ صَلَوَاتُ اللَّهِ وَسَلَامُ عَلَيْهِ. That those conditions, when they do extensive research pertaining to ayat in the Quran and hadith, but it's not like one or two. It's comprehensive. It's a lot that goes into it. Once they gather everything and everything's in front of them, they reach their peak of what they can gather, then they make an extraction. Okay, this is from the conditions based on this. This is the same for the shurut al-salah, or shurut al-hajj, okay, and other forms of worship. Yes?
So you're saying it's not from one hadith, but a collection?
There you are. It's from a collecting a hadith, and then they make a ruling after that. طيب قيل لوهب بن منبه Wahab ibn Munabbih, he was born in the time of Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu anhu. Wahab ibn Munabbih. And his biography is in a book called Sir A'lam al-Nubala, the Imam al-Dhahabi. Imam al-Dhahabi has a long book, like a long history book, dealing with the people during his time. They might have been people from the Sunnah, they might have been innovators, but he did their biographies, men, women. It's a long book, maybe 30 volumes, depending on the print you have, where he discusses their lives and the things that they did and who did they learn from, who did they teach, what did the people in their time say about them, what were they known for, positive or negative. Everything that was mentioned about a person, he mentions it. He says, Ibn Munabbih, and the importance of mentioning this is that so we know when these people say this, where did they get it from? Now that we just mentioned a name and he says something, who's he? Who's Wahab ibn Munabbih? أخذ عن ابن عباس وأبي هريرة وابن عمر. He took knowledge from, Wahab took knowledge from Ibn Abbas, the Sahaba. He took knowledge from Abu Hurairah, the Sahaba, the companion of the Prophet ﷺ, and Ibn Umar. May Allah be pleased with Umar. He took knowledge from the Sahaba. So his understanding is the importance of going back. His understanding, and he's considered from not the Sahaba, but after the Sahaba, which are, who are the people after the Sahaba? The students of the Sahaba, Tabi'een. Huh? He's old. He's not like, not 100 years ago, not 50, not living now. Min zaman. Wahab said, somebody said to him, Alaysa la ilaha illallah, miftah al-jannah. Somebody asked him, isn't la ilaha illallah the key to get into paradise? This is what they asked Wahab ibn Munabbih. Somebody came to him and said, isn't la ilaha illallah the key to paradise? Wahab said, قال بلى ولكن ليس مفتاح إلا له أسنان. He said, of course, the key to paradise is la ilaha illallah, the statement la ilaha illallah, but there's no key except that the key has teeth. Every key has teeth. Sah? Every key has teeth. If your key doesn't fit the door, you can't get in the door. Sah? Wahab ibn Munabbih, student of Ibn Abbas and Abi Hurairah and Ibn Umar, and that's a whole bunch of other people that he took knowledge from. That I mean, this is just a few because they're famous. That Imam al-Dhahabi mentioned. طيب. He says, فَإِنْ جِدْتَ بِمِفْتَاحٍ لَهُ أَسْنَانٍ فُتِحَ لَكَ. He says, so if you come with the key that has the right teeth, the door will be opened. This is the example he gave. وَإِلَّا لَمْ يُفْتَ لَكَ. And if you don't come with the key with the right teeth, the door won't be open. Pointing to what? The conditions of La ilaha illallah. Because there's some people that say, as long as you say La ilaha illallah, khalas. You say La ilaha illallah. But their conditions, a person breaks the condition, they don't fulfill the condition. They fulfill them at one point in their life and then they go back and go against them. So he says, يُشِيرُ بِذَلِكَ إِلَى شُرُوطِهَا وَضَوَابِطَهَا وَقُيُودِهَا الْوَارِدَةِ فِي كِتَابِ اللَّهِ وَسُنَّةِ النَّبِيِّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم. And that statement, given a comparison to a key, is taken from the things that are found in the Quran and the Sunnah. A comprehensive study of the Quran and the Sunnah, and then they extract, okay, these conditions must be fulfilled in order for the Shahadah to be correct. Now what if somebody comes with another argument? He says, فَإِنْ قَالَ قَائِلٌ إِنَّ مُجَرَّدَ النُّطْقِ بِشَهَادَةِ أَنْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ يَنْفَعُ وَأَنَّهَا تُقْبَلُ بِدُونِ ضَوَابِطٍ وَبِدُونِ شُرُوطٍ. Somebody might come and say, if a person says La ilaha illallah, it benefits him. It's a benefit. You don't need any conditions. They don't need any conditions and all that stuff, you know what I'm saying? He says, what's the argument for that? Does anybody know? A person comes, we're talking about does it benefit him Yawm al-Qiyamah? Because right now, we only judge upon what's apparent, right? Somebody takes Shahadah. If somebody comes and takes Shahadah, we don't say, nah, he's not really Muslim. Right? He takes Shahadah, alhamdulillah, he's Muslim. According to what's clear. Tayyib. So a person says, tayyib, if he says it benefits him. Yanfa. He don't need shurut and all that. It's a benefit to him if he says it. Huh? Anybody know the argument? The response to that? They say, a person says it, it's a benefit. They don't need all those conditions that you're talking about. All those conditions, mahtaj. They don't need them. He says, qila. If a person says that, you don't need the conditions. He says, معنى ذلك أن قول المنافقين, where Allah said, إذا جاءك المنافقون قالوا نشهد إنك لرسول الله. Allah said in the Quran, in Surah Al-Munafiqeen, Al-Munafiqun, Allah said, the first ayat, if the Munafiqun come to you, the hypocrites come to you, and they say, what? Nashhadu annaka Rasulullah. We bear witness that you're the messenger of Allah. Huh? If all they had to say was that, then it benefits them. Hypocrites. There's a real thing called hypocrites, and they were alive on the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Huh? They were walking around, they prayed with the Muslims, they fasted, went to war with some of them, right? They said the Shahadah. But Yawm al-Qiyamah is of no benefit to them, because the conditions aren't fulfilled. Did they say it? They said it. They pronounced the Shahadah. Does it benefit them Yawm al-Qiyamah? No. وَكَذَلِكَ قَوْلُهُمْ إِذَا لَقُوا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا آمَنَّا يَنْفَعُهُمْ. And they also said, Allah mentioned in the Quran, when they meet you, they say, we believe. The hypocrites. So if we say all the person has to do is say it without any conditions, then the Shahadah benefits the hypocrites on the time of the Prophet ﷺ. And he said, وَلَا يَقُولُ بِذَلِكَ قَائِلٌ. And nobody says that. It's known that the hypocrites themselves from the statement of the Shahadah, showing the importance of the conditions. طيب. جاء عن حسن البصري رحمه الله. There's another statement from Imam Al-Hasan Al-Basri rahimahullah. Imam Al-Hasan Al-Basri, he's also in that book, that history book of Imam Al-Dhahabi. He's in there also, in his life. And it said about him, Imam Al-Dhahabi said about him, كان سيد أهل زمانه علما وعملا. It was said about Imam Hasan Al-Basri, he was looked at and they held him as the leader in his time. The time that he lived, he was seen as the leader as far as knowledge is concerned and action. Not just he knew a bunch of stuff and didn't implement it. Knowledge and action. Syid Zamani. He was looked at as the leader of his time. Imam Hasan Al-Basri rahimahullah. He said, أنه قيل له, it was said to him, somebody said to Hasan Al-Basri, and Hasan Al-Basri was after Wahab. So Hasan Al-Basri didn't take from the Sahaba, but he took from the Tabi'een, the students of the Sahaba. So he's from not the Sahaba's generation, not the Tabi'een, the back Tabi'een, Hasan Al-Basri, all the way back. It's not new. This understanding of conditions being for La ilaha illallah is not new. It's old. Imam Hasan al-Basri said, someone said to him, إِنَّ النَّاسَ يَقُولُونَ مَنْ قَالَ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ دَخَلَ الْجَنَّةِ. He said, the people are saying, if a person says La ilaha illallah, they're going to enter Jannah. This is what the people are saying. That's what they said to Hasan al-Basri. If the people are saying, if a person says La ilaha illallah, that they're going to enter paradise. فقال Hasan al-Basri, he said, من قال لا إله إلا الله فأدى حقها وفرضها دخل الجنة. Whoever says La ilaha illallah, and they uphold the statement, they give its right, they give the statement its rights, from the conditions, the negation, the affirmation, this person enters Jannah. Why? Because there's another hadith, but the person might say there's a hadith. There's a clear hadith that says, من قال لا إله إلا الله دخل الجنة. The hadith says, whoever says La ilaha illallah will enter paradise. That's one hadith. But, and this is the importance of the comprehensive study, there are other ahadith that have other words. من قال لا إله إلا الله صدقا وخالصا. And some other narrations it says, whoever says La ilaha illallah, and they're truthful in their statement, they have truthfulness in their heart when they say it, and they're khalis, they're sincere when they say it. So these are two conditions that are put on the statement, that you can't just say it. Because the Prophet ﷺ said in another hadith, whoever says La ilaha illallah khalisan, sincerely, will enter the paradise. In another hadith, whoever says La ilaha illallah sidqan, truthfully saying it, and they believe it, will enter Jannah. So if a person comes and says, you just say La ilaha illallah, no, there are other ahadith, the other statements of the Prophet ﷺ that have to be considered in order for a person to get that reward. And this is the importance of al-istiqra.
So the first two you mentioned so far was truthfulness and sincerity?
No, we didn't mention any yet. Those two are just mentioned in that hadith. Even though they are from the conditions, in that hadith they're mentioned to show that it's not one hadith that mentions whoever says La ilaha illallah enters Jannah. One mentions it without any conditions, and others mention it with specific wording. One wording says truthfully, sidqan. One wording says khalisan, sincerely. And this was the statement of Imam Hassan al-Basri rahimahullah. طيب, the shurut, the conditions. He says, وَأَمَّا شُرُوط لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ فَهِيَ. The conditions of La ilaha illallah. الأول العلم المنافي للجهل. Knowledge that is in contrast or the opposite of ignorance. Person has to have knowledge. Knowledge of what? العلم بمعناها نفيا وإثباتا. Same thing we said last week. Knowledge of what the statement La ilaha illallah contains from negation and confirmation. From negation and confirmation. Meaning, a person says the Shahadah, but they don't negate worship to anything others besides Allah. Meaning they're going to worship Allah with other things. There's no benefit. It's shirk. Right? To worship something along with Allah is shirk. So they have to have knowledge of what? That the Shahada necessitates that a person believes none has the right to be worshipped except Allah. A person has to understand that. Do they have to memorize these as it is mentioned? No. They don't necessarily have to say and know, as some of the scholars put them in poems to make it easy to remember what they are. They don't necessarily have to know them, as it was asked in the fatwa of one of the lajna. But they have to, if a person comes with the understanding, they understand these conditions, even if they haven't memorized them all, they understand these conditions and that's how they worship Allah, it's enough. This is for the sake of learning and knowing. It's to be clear, for clarity. But if a person didn't know all of these by heart, they didn't memorize 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, but they understood in their heart how to implement it, and they implemented the conditions, it's enough for them. They have to have knowledge of what the Shahada points to regarding confirmation. None has the right to be worshipped except Allah. And the negation that we said last week in the artican of the Shahada. You with me, ya Sheikh? Huh? Tayyib. As we mentioned, all those are hadith or the ayat where Allah said, اعبد الله ما لكم من إله غيره واعبد الله ولا تشركوا به. All the ayat that we mentioned last week. Worship Allah is a confirmation that the worship is for Allah. وَاعْبُدُ اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا. And don't worship anything, don't make shirk with anything with Allah. The negation. All the things that we said last week. طيب. الْمُنَافِي لِلْجَهْلِ. That a person removes the ignorance, or that knowledge, when he has that knowledge, is in contrast, the opposite of ignorance. How? عِلْمٍ صَحِيحًا وَفَهْمًا قَوِيمًا لِهَذِهِ الْكَلِمَةِ. He said he has a knowledge that will remove him. His knowledge of the meaning of La ilaha illallah will remove him out of the state of ignorance of not knowing what it means. Meaning, that knowledge is going to give him some benefit. He has knowledge of the meaning when before he was ignorant of the meaning. He didn't know what it meant, but he understands that La ilaha illallah means the worship has to be only for Allah, and it can't be for anything or anyone other than Allah Jalla wa'ala. So that knowledge is going to remove him from being ignorant of its meaning. Tayyib. How do we know this is a condition? It has to be something, because they said that what? An istiqra is when they gather all of the ayat and all of the hadith pertaining to an issue, and then they come with a ruling on it. Tayyib. It says, قال الله سبحانه وتعالى فاعلم أنه لا إله إلا الله واستغفر لذنبك وللمؤمنين والمؤمنات. Allah says, no, فاعلم. And it's a fi'l amr, فاعلم. And no is a command. And no, لا إله إلا الله. And have knowledge. فاعلم, meaning to know something, know something. La ilaha illallah. Fa'lam annahu la ilaha illallah. So Allah started with what first in the ayat? فَبَدَأَ بِهِ Fa'lam. What is fa'lam? No. Knowledge. You gotta have knowledge first. This ayat is in Surah Muhammad. فَبَدَأَ بِالْعِلْمِ إِذْ هُوَ الْأَسَاسِ. Knowledge is the foundation. It's in Surah Muhammad, ayat 19. And Allah said in another ayat, إِلَّا مَنْ شَهِدَ بِالْحَقِّ وَهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ. Except for those who bear witness to the truth, meaning to the Shahadah, and they know. وَهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ. قال المفسرون that this يَعْلَمُونَ, the ulama, the scholars of tafsir, like who? Famous scholars of tafsir we should all know. Ibn Kathir, rahimahullah. Ibn Kathir. The scholars of tafsir, they said this hum ya'lamun, ay ya'lamuna ma'na ma shahidu bih. That they understand the meaning of what they just bore witness to. They understand the meaning that they bore witness to. And this ayat, the second ayat, is in Surah Al-Zukhruf, ayat 86. Surah Al-Zukhruf, ayat 86. طيب. There's a hadith in Sahih Muslim. Right? Authentic Sahih Muslim. What is the importance of Sahih Muslim? Where does Sahih Muslim stand with the Muslim Ummah? Does anybody remember?
It's the most authentic book after the Quran.
Huh?
It's the most authentic books after the Quran.
Sahih? Sahih Muslim is the most authentic book after the Quran? La. Sahih Bukhari is the most authentic after the Quran. طيب. Sahih Muslim is number 2. طيب. The hadith is in Sahih Muslim. عن نبينا عليه الصلاة والسلام. The Prophet ﷺ said, أنه قال من مات وهو يعلم أنه لا إله إلا الله دخل الجنة. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever dies and they know, they have knowledge, they know لا إله إلا الله دخل الجنة, that they're going to enter paradise. Whoever dies and they know لا إله إلا الله دخل الجنة. That's one condition, knowledge. The person might stop there and say, somebody died, they knew, but there are other conditions that have to be filled along with the first one. That first one is knowledge, but not just knowledge, because there were people who knew during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, right? And it didn't make them, it didn't save them. The fact that they had knowledge, that was one condition, but there were other things that had to be implemented. طيب. So, and that hadith is in Sahih Muslim. The second condition. So the first condition is knowledge. The first condition is knowledge. And Allah mentioned in the ayat, no, أنه لا إله إلا الله. No, لا إله إلا الله. In the other ayat, إلا من شهد بالحق وهم يعلمون. Except for those who bear witness to the truth, meaning they bear witness to لا إله إلا الله, and they know, ويعلمون. وهم يعلمون, and they know the meaning of لا إله إلا الله. They know the meaning of what they bore witness to. So, question is, what if a person comes to take Shahadah? Do they have to know all of this in detail? They have to understand, a comprehensive understanding of this is what the kalima means. You're not going to bring a new Muslim in here and explain, all of this in 3 minutes and give him Shahadah. A comprehensive study of what the Shahadah means and what it necessitates. If they know this without having memorized all of the conditions and all of the ayat and all of the hadith, then it benefits them, inshallah. طيب الثاني, the second condition, اليقين المنافي للشك والريب. Certainty, that a person is certain. He has knowledge of La ilaha illallah, and he's certain he doesn't have any doubt. He doesn't have any doubt. If a person doubts, if they have some doubt about the Shahadah, then ultimately that means they doubt what? That's a person saying they have doubt in the Shahadah. Allah's the only one. So you saying no one else deserves to be worshipped except Allah? That's not. A Muslim doesn't believe like that. Right? No, there's no doubt that Muhammad ﷺ is the message of Allah. That he has yaqeen, al-yaqeen. Tamam al-ilm, complete knowledge Allah said in the Quran. Yes.
But didn't Abraham do the same thing? He had no doubt.
Doubt in what?
When he was, when he was saying that the Shahadah, that he believed that there was nothing worthy of worship except Allah. Didn't he have a little doubt? And when Allah said,
Ibrahim?
Ibrahim, yeah.
Allah.
I'm just asking you.
I don't know. Allah. I don't know.
I mean, in the Quran, it talks about, you say, when, he asked him to show him different ways about the sun and all other things.
So what was the doubt in exactly?
But that's what I'm saying. I'm asking you because you teaching the class.
Allah A'lam. I don't know if Ibrahim alayhi salam had any doubt in Allah's oneness. Could it have been in something else? Allahu A'lam. I've never heard Ibrahim alayhi salam having doubt in Allah's oneness, the Shahadah. Allah A'lam. It's worth a look, research, inshallah. Huh?
The bird, that's all I was saying, yeah. Maybe talk about that.
What was the doubt in?
There was no doubt. It was certainty about submission.
That's what you talking about, right?
Yeah.
That wasn't the bird.
That's what I was talking about.
Hey.
I don't think he was so much that he was doubting. I think he was bearing witness that there is no one worthy of worship. He was saying that I know it's not the sun. That was the way I understood that.
I thought he needed some confirmation. That's what he said.
Like feedback. Not doubt this.
And Allah said,
Anbiya.
put him on, on the mountain, and they'll come watch him come back to you. So this was, So I'm just asking, you saying it like,
Hey.
So
Like, we do that inshallah next week. Just generally the Anbiya, the prophets and the messengers, they carry the Kalimat Tawheed. They carry the message of La ilaha illallah to all their people. And they understood it better than their people understood it. As they're the ones teaching the Kalima, they're teaching the Shahadah to the people. So,
I get that part.
Right.
I'm just saying, it's just when I read it like that, it still says something similar to that.
Right.
That it gives you that impression.
Right.
So,
inshallah, we bring it next week. But as the early men of Usul Fiqh say, the scholars of Usul Fiqh say, this has nothing to do with what you're saying, but just slightly related, that there is no ta'arud al-nas, that the nusus, the texts, don't contradict one another. The Quran and the Sunnah don't contradict one another. Abadan. But what happens is when you find a hadith that looks like A in the ayah that looks like B, what do they say? Your understanding is incorrect, not the text. Allah and His Messenger, the Quran is revelation, the Sunnah is revelation. So if a person finds in front of him something that looks to be like his, conflicting, if he finds something look to be conflicting, not for you, Sheikh, I'm just saying. They say this for the scholar reading the text, and he finds things that are conflicting the ayah and the hadith. They say the scholar has to look at his understanding because the texts don't conflict. So we gotta think,
well, I didn't.
Not you, I'm not. That was for you.
I was taking it like he was weak at one point, and he was feeling.
Ibrahim.
Yeah. So that's what I was. I didn't think he doubted that Allah was one God. I just think that I thought he was just weak at that point, and he needs some more, because everybody needs their battery charged, though. So that's all. That's what
No, we'll bring it, inshallah, we'll bring it next week. Inshallah. طيب. Al-yaqeen, to be certain. Allah said, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ ثُمَّ لَمْ يَرْتَابُوا. In Surah Al-Hujurat. That the believers are those who believe in Allah and His Messenger, and then after that they don't have any doubt. These are the believers. They believe in Allah and His Messenger, and after that, لَمْ يَرْتَابُوا. Surah Hujurat, ayat 15. أَيْقَنُوا وَلَمْ يَشُكُّوا. They don't have any doubt after they make the Shahadah. Right? Surah Hujurat. He says, فَأَمَّا إِذَا كَانَ الشَّخْصُ مُتَرَدِّدًا شَاكًا مُرْتَابًا فَهَذَا لَا يُقْبَلْ مِنْهُ. But if a person is doubtful, in the Shahadah, it's of no benefit. The Shahadah is no benefit to him. Allah said the ones who believe, the believers, are the ones who what? Believe in Allah and His Messenger, and after that, they don't have any doubt. So, they don't have any doubt. Surah Hujurat, Ayah 15. Now another hadith, as this is the comprehensive collection that they do. Another hadith mentioning certainty fi Sahih Muslim. The hadith says, the Prophet ﷺ قال أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأني رسول الله لا يلقى الله بهما عبد غير الشاك فيهما إلا دخل الجنة. The Prophet ﷺ said in the same book, Sahih Muslim, he said, I bear witness that none has the right to be worshipped except Allah, and that I am the messenger of Allah. This is the Prophet ﷺ. He said, no person, no slave will meet Allah believing in those two statements without any doubt. He said, غَيْرَ شَاكٍ فِيهِمَا, not having any doubt in those two statements, the kalimat al-tawheed. He said, what about that person? إِلَّا دَخَلَ الْجَنَّةِ, except that that person went into paradise. So now the Prophet ﷺ put another qaid, he put another condition on the person entering Jannah. That what? It's no doubt. In the other hadith, it said ilm, knowledge. وَهُوَ يَعْلَمُ. Right? So if a person takes one hadith and leaves the other, he hasn't done a comprehensive study of the issue. The first hadith said the person dies and هُوَ يَعْلَمُ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهُ دَخَلَ الْجَنَّةِ. He dies and he knows. This hadith says that the one who believes in these two statements, غَيْرُ الشَّاكٍ, with no doubt, will enter paradise. And that's one hadith in Sahih Muslim. So in this hadith, he made, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the Prophet sallallahu made doubt a condition, or not having doubt a condition for the Shahadah being accepted and the person entering paradise. And there's another hadith, من لقيت من وراء هذا الحائط يشهد أن لا إله إلا الله مستيقنا بها قلبه فبشره بالجنة. And this hadith is also in Sahih Muslim on Abi Hurairah. Whoever you meet behind this wall here and they believe, they bear witness that La ilaha illallah, مستيقنا بها قلبه, and his heart is certain. His heart is certain in his belief. فَبَشِّرْهُ بِالْجَنَّةِ, so give him the glad tidings of Jannah. Inform him of the glad tidings of Al-Jannah, of paradise, for being certain. So the first two, the first one was knowledge, the second, al-yaqeen. And we can see that we have two different ahadith, one having one word, the other hadith having another word. So what does that mean? Does that mean we throw one hadith out, or we only use one? No, we have to use all of the hadith, because they're all sahih, they're all authentic. And to make a jama' بين الأدلة أولى من not making a jama'. To combine all of the dalil together is the first thing a person tries to do, rather than push one to the side and not use it. Meaning, if there's more than one hadith, the first thing we try to do is use all of them. Right? First thing is not, we don't immediately say, well, I'm going to use this one and I'm not going to use this one. They're both in Sahih Muslim, they're both authentic. So what we try to do, they say, all right, we use everything. This is awla, then taking one and leaving the other. So the first one said what? Whoever dies, وَهُوَ يَعْلَمُ, and he knows, لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهُ دَخَلَ الْجَنَّةِ. And the second one says that no slave will meet Allah believing in the La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, and he doesn't have any doubt except that he will enter Jannah. So both hadith have different words in them. The third shart, الثالث من شروطها الإخلاص المنافي للشرك والرياء. To be sincere, which is the opposite of al-ikhlas lillah, to be sincere in worship by singling Allah out in worship and not making shirk with Allah. And he says also, riya, showing off, not saying the Shahadah, showing off. And riya is something that the Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith to the Sahaba. The Sahaba, may Allah be pleased with them all. أَخْوَفُ مَا أَخَافَ عَلَيْكُمْ. What I fear for you most, the Sahaba. What I fear for you most is a riya, companions of the Prophet ﷺ. Tayyib. So the kalima, the shahada, has to be free of worshiping anything with Allah, and also has to be free of riya. Why is riya, showing off, a problem? What does showing off show? Showing off is what? That means a person is not sincere. It's the opposite of sincerity. They're doing it not lillah, they're not doing it for Allah, they're doing it for some praise from the people to be seen. They're not doing it lillah. So a person comes here and he prays in the front row. All we see is, mashallah, the brother prays in the front row. We don't know what's in the person's heart. But if he's doing that so that the people can say, mashallah, he always prays in the front row, there's no benefit to him because it's not for Allah, it's for the people. And that's the importance of the hadith, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَا نَوَىٰ. Actions are by intentions, and every person gets what they intended. If he intended by doing that for people to praise him, then that's what he gets. If he intended by that Allah's reward, then that's what he gets, according to the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ.
But I was saying only he would know that.
Only he knows. Allah knows. The people, unless he comes out, most people don't come out and say, yeah, I'm showing off, like, Allah musta'an. But we come from showing off. That's where we come from. That's where we come from here, where we are, in this town. We come from showing off.
Some people show too.
Huh?
Some people come to you, brother, I was just first yesterday,
Yeah.
So like,
Oh, yeah. Inshallah, he's not, maybe we have husnul dhan. Maybe he's trying to encourage you to fast. Inshallah, hopefully he's not showing off, but he's trying to encourage us to fast. Right, by his intention. Somebody comes and says, yeah, mashallah, I fasted yesterday.
Yeah.
Mashallah, alhamdulillah. You're not going to say, oh, he's showing off. Hopefully he's being sincere. If he's not sincere, then Allah deals with him, but we only going up what's apparent. But we come from showing off, so showing off, we got to be careful so that it doesn't creep into our worship and disrupt and spoil our worship. So the third one, that a person says the statement with sincerity. That he says it with sincerity. And Allah said, وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُ اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ. In Surah Al-Bayyinah, the 5th ayat. And we have not commanded them except that they worship Allah. They worship Allah, mukhlisin, sincerely worship Allah. Not seeking the praise of someone or for the people to say this about him, or the people, he wants people to hear him, but that he does the act of worship seeking only Allah's reward. My reward is with Allah. The people like it, they like, they don't. That's not my concern. My concern is that I fulfill what's obligatory upon me to fulfill. And then he brings a hadith. في الصحيح, that the Prophet ﷺ said, and this is in Sahih al-Bukhari. Was that the adhan? Is it time for the adhan?
Actually,
Huh?
we can call it and make it calm at the same time.
La bas?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have something to finish, right?
Yeah, but
Oh, we can start?
no problem. Fadal.
Huh?
Fadal.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. طيب. The last thing, and this is the third one, al-ikhlas. So the first condition was knowledge. The second condition was certainty. The third condition, sincerity, al-ikhlas. And the hadith says that the Prophet ﷺ, he said, and this is in Sahih Bukhari, he said, قال أسعد الناس بشفاعتي يوم القيامة من قال لا إله إلا الله خالصا من قلبه. This hadith is in Sahih Bukhari, that the happiest person on Yawm al-Qiyamah, أسعد الناس بشفاعتي, the person who will be the most pleased with the intercession of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam Yawm al-Qiyamah. This person, the most happiest person, he said, who? من قال لا إله إلا الله, the one who said لا إله إلا الله خالصا من قلبه, sincerely from his heart. So he put on, in order to get that reward, it has to be ikhlas, sincerity. And this shows you the point of, they didn't all come in one hadith, but there's one hadith that says knowledge, there's one hadith that says without doubt, there's another hadith that says with sincerity. So what they do is they say, okay, all of these things show that these things must be in place in order for the Shahadah to be correct. If they're not in place, then the Shahadah is not correct. So if all of these things are in place, then the Shahadah is correct. So, al-ikhlas, sincerity. So he says that he made it, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he made ikhlas a condition in order to benefit from his statement of la ilaha illallah. And there are other ayat. Allah lillahi ad-deenul khalis. Allah said that the religion is to be sincerely for Allah. And lastly, he says, فَالْإِخْلَاص عِبَادَةً إِخْلَاص الْعِبَادَةِ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ أَن تَكُونَ الْعِبَادَةَ الصَّافِيَةَ نَقِيَّةً. That ikhlas and worship, that the worship is to be only, completely for Allah Jalla wa'ala. With no riyah, not doing the worship for people to see him and praise him, or not doing the worship for people to hear him or her and praise him or her, but the worship is only seeking Allah's reward. And as the Prophet ﷺ said, that these are by intentions and every person will get what they intended. And that hadith is a famous hadith. And any questions? I think we're going to stop there. Inshallah, with the first three. Any questions?
So if anybody died on the first one,
What you mean the first one?
the first, you said it's three.
Mm.
Then the first one, if the person dies on that one,
The person takes Shahadah. The point is, it's not like a person takes Shahadah. Does anybody, if somebody dies and they know, they took Shahadah, the point is not that they have to know 1, 2, 3. That's not the point. when they take Shahadah, they understand comprehensively what the Shahadah means. Even if they don't know that, okay, some scholars say it's 7, some scholars say it's 8. That's not the most important part. That some say it's 7, some say. The most important part is that they understand what the Shahadah necessitates from them. So if they died, if they took Shahadah and died, we wouldn't know. Anyway, we make dua from was a parent, they Muslim, they died, we make dua to Allah, forgive them for their sins, and we keep going. Was a parent that they Muslim, we hope that and pray that they didn't do anything that invalidated the Shahadah that people didn't see. We take what's apparent. We don't judge and say, all right, well, he took Shahadah, but
No, I'm not saying that.
no, not you, I'm just saying generally. We're going to take what's on the Zahir. What's apparent is that they're Muslim, and we hope that people, and this is the point of going over, so to make sure that we all understand what we're supposed to believe and what we're not supposed to believe, how we're supposed to, what necessitates, what is necessary and obligatory from us as Muslims. If a person dies, how can we say, for example, he only knew one condition, for example, or she only knew one condition? You know what I'm saying? Like, unless they come to you and they say that they don't believe or one of these conditions, they say, they tell you, they come to a person, they say, I got some doubt if this is, they tell you now that they have doubt. That's one thing. But if they don't come and tell you something that's outside of what we're supposed to do, we hope for the best.
The reason why I ask you, because most people just believe when you just say it, and and they think that's enough, and when you start talking about knowledge and sincerity, and being truthful, and stuff
Right.
like you said, sometimes they think this is something that's like a person say, like for instance, they was getting ready to hang up a brother, and he came out and said, I shut one bag and had no law, shut during the moment of the Rasul, and then they hung up.
Right.
And so I don't know if he could be met those conditions, but it's just that most people believe in that part, because when they go fight in the way of Allah, they saying la ilaha illallah, and they may not know those conditions. So that's the reason why I asked you about the first one.
Jay.
So.
Well, if they say La ilaha illallah,
And they just, because they hear other people saying, everybody saying,
that's a mushkil.
and then they saying they fighting in the way of Allah, and they go out and,
Allahumma musta'an.
So.
That's, if they don't know. So you saying, for example, they just hear people say something and they say
They
it.
saying it, and they all saying, and they say they Muslim, and they praying, and they doing all these.
They were Muslim before?
If they Muslim and they praying and they doing all these other things, but they don't know these conditions. They just know to say la ilaha illallah, and they believe that's enough.
Wallahi, that's the point. That's the point of knowing this. To make sure, because nobody else can come in front of us, we can say, you can look at him and say, well, he don't know what the sixth condition is. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to actually, unless somebody comes and say, and they come and tell you. If they come and tell you, then it's clear, okay, he has a problem in this, so inshallah we can help him and, understand.
But ain't there's a possibility that a person that believes in that la ilaha illallah, that they believe those conditions and not knowing it?
It's possible. If you understand what la ilaha illallah necessitates from you, being in the other conditions, knowledge, you have to know. It's understood that if a person comes to take Shahada, either one, they did some type of research. Usually. They did something that something pulled them to want to come. They understand that, okay, usually, where we from, I don't believe, I used to go to church, I don't believe that's the truth. I've always believed, some Christians say, I always believed that God is one. I never believed that God was three. I always believed this, I always believed that. They might tell you all the conditions just out of just naturally. Point is, it doesn't necessitate they have to say, well, before I take Shahada, I know that I'm certain, I know that.
No, I'm not saying that.
I'm just giving an example. You know what I'm saying? The point is that they understand it, and without even if, like some of the other men said, without them even knowing the number, without them knowing all the intricate details, if they understand it and they worship Allah upon that, because we don't know what's in a person's heart. We don't know. No, we don't know what's in anybody's heart. There could be a brother praying for 30 years, and he had doubt the whole time he was praying. May Allah protect us all from that. But if that happens, we would never know. That's between him and Allah. All we know is he come, he prays.
But he would know.
He knows. And if he comes out, because sometimes people open up, if he comes out and says he feels comfortable enough, and they come to you and pull you to the side and say, I want to tell you now, and he opens up and says something, and then at that point, inshallah, we got an opportunity to help him, to work on it.
Does that necessitate him being Muslim?
Does it what?
Necessitate from him
It
being
possibly
Muslim?
could, yeah. But that's not for us. That's takfir. Making somebody not a Muslim is an issue. If we went in Muslim lands, they gotta go to court, sit in front of judges, be spoken to. It's a lot of steps before we say, Tayyib, he's not Muslim anymore. It's a lot. It's not just that easy.
Yeah, he met a condition and we had
Yeah, it's not like, oh, Sheikh said in the book, number 3. That's not. Sometimes we get, you know, we get a little crazy. What's that?
A person still has a try to keep finding out the conditions, right?
Huh?
Seek the knowledge, like how he said, if a person doesn't know the conditions, but you said they may still have it in their heart, so they might explain it just by them filling their heart, saying that they always believed it wasn't 3 gods.
Right.
But we still have to keep seeking knowledge, right?
Sahih.
We still have to, even though you don't know the conditions, we have to keep seeking it.
The Muslim is supposed to know as we said in the first class, there's certain knowledge that every Muslim has to know. And that's what this book is for. This is not like a scholarly level book. No disrespect. But meaning he didn't write it, the author didn't write it for scholars to return back to. He wrote it for the general Muslim, just on a basic level. Every general Muslim should know this. All right, if you come to a person and you say, what's the conditions of La ilaha illallah? You say, conditions? I don't know. What do you mean what's conditions of La ilaha illallah? Right? I don't know. Conditions of La ilaha illallah. You say knowledge. You start naming them off. He might already know them. It doesn't necessitate that he has to read back to you this. What's necessary is implementation. That's what's the most important thing is implementation. Not running off the stuff. He might be a new Muslim. He doesn't know all the hadith. He don't know what Sahih Bukhari Muslim is. You say, well, you have to love Allah. I love Allah. I love Allah and His Messenger. Well, you know, when you love Allah, that means you have to have a dislike for shirk, putting partners. Yeah, that's why I became Muslim. Because I don't think that's true. And I think the Lord of the worlds is higher than that. I don't think you should worship. That way, you have to be certain when you say that. I am certain. That's why I took Shahadah. It's possible he could say all the stuff that we're saying just like that without knowing. And that's the whole point. The point is, it's enough for him to have implemented, even if he doesn't know the textual and the ayat and this ayat and the hadith. As the Father from the Al-Thamaraat said, it's enough that they implement it. And they worship Allah upon that their whole life. What we know, are we going to know if somebody comes in front of us and don't know it? No, we'll never know. Unless they open up and say they don't know. Or else they probably open up and say they have doubt. At that point, all right, now we know they have an issue here.
But we better off knowing.
Yeah, that's the importance of knowledge, right? So that Allah said, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, that I have not created mankind and jinn except to worship me. How are we going to worship Allah without knowledge? We can't worship just as I think I should worship like this, but you think it's different. No, He sent the Messenger ﷺ to teach us how to worship. So we don't have an excuse, you know, Qiyamah. Sent the book, sent the messenger to show you how to implement the book. So if you take Shahadah, you bear witness that the book, that the kalima is true, that the messenger is true. As Allah said in the Quran, إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِي قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِي. The Prophet, Allah said to the Prophet, tell the people, tell them, say, Ya Muhammad, say, O Muhammad, tell the people, follow me. And Imam Hassan al-Basri said there were people, the same Imam Hassan al-Basri, rahimahullah, he said there were people during his time saying that they love Allah. So Allah tested them. So if they allowed to see if they loved Allah, then you will follow the messenger. Right? So people were tested with that statement saying that they love Allah. Point being is that this is technical. But if a person implemented all of that without knowing all the technical terms, alhamdulillah, that's enough for him to stand before Allah. He knows what you know, but you have more knowledge in him and you can read it back to him and you know the ayat. Okay, you might get more reward for knowing that and teaching somebody, but it's enough for him to stand before Allah, inshallah. Any other questions?
How can protect the ikhlas?
How can you protect your ikhlas? We used to get told a lot by one of our teachers, always renew your intention. Always renew your intention. Dhikr. Stand and remember reading the Quran, reading the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's a lot of ways. Trying to increase in ibadah, standing up at night, in the middle of the night, when nobody knows that you're standing. Those acts of worship that nobody knows you're doing except Allah. And then you don't come like the brother said and say, yo, I'm fasting today. Nah. Nah, dhikr, always remembering Allah. That's what Allah, we got a problem, man, that we come from showing off. At least I know. Not that I was taught by my parents to show off. I'm talking about our immediate society and our atmosphere that, you know. I mean, we laugh, but that's where we come from. And in order to get rid of that, it takes a lot. It takes time, it takes a lot. We just ask Allah that we meet Allah on Qiyamah sincere, but not showing off. Because Asghar, Riyah, the minor shirk Riyah, that's what he told the Sahaba. And some of the Sahaba would cry. They would cry, wanting to know, hoping that they didn't fall into hypocrisy. Sahaba. Allah forgive us. SubhanAllah, bihamdihi, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayh. No. The three. The first one, knowledge, al-ilm. The second one, al-yaqeen, certainty. And the third one, al-ikhlas, sincerity. Inshallah, we'll finish next week. Inshallah. Jazakumullah khair.